This episode I really want to quickly talk about surrendering, because it's something that happens a lot, especially in rec games and stuff like that. And the one thing that really bugs me about it is that many years ago I watched a DVD from a so-called paintball sniper who actually recommended that at least once a day you get up behind somebody and you make them surrender at point-blank range. To me, this just seemed fundamentally stupid, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me show you something real quick. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to show you guys what I recommend that you do for surrendering. This barrel is going to represent a player. Now here at Breakaway they have a rule that if you're within 20 feet of another player, you have to ask that player to surrender. So here's my recommendation of what to do. This looks like 20 feet away from me. Yeah, I know, we don't got any paint today, deal with it. So yeah, my recommendation, take a step back and shoot him in the back. So why do I recommend this? Well, very simple reason. When you ask somebody to surrender, basically you are giving up control. You can do everything right. You can creep up behind the other guy, you can get through all the briars and brambles and everything, you can do it stealthily and quietly. You get within that magical 20-foot distance, and the moment you ask the other person to surrender, now it's their choice. Now it's up to this person whether they feel like surrendering or not. And we all know the guy. We all know one guy who says, oh, I never surrender, I don't surrender at all. Well, you don't know who that guy is on the field. 9 times out of 10, if you yell surrender at somebody, you're going to scare the living bejesus out of them, and they're going to turn and fire anyway just because they're terrified. So my big recommendation, don't even bother asking for a surrender. If the rule is you got to be at least 10 feet away, take a step back so you're 11 feet away. And don't light the guy up either. You know, one shot, you made your point, you shot the guy in the back once, you made your point, move on. There are going to be situations where asking somebody to surrender is actually the more intelligent thing to do. Yeah, I know, you guys have all seen FPS 1. If you haven't, there's a link to it over here. But on FPS 1, I got 2 people to surrender. Now, the reason I did that was because there were 2 people there and more people in front of them. So if I were to take the shot, I would have basically announced my presence, and I would have had 30 guys turning and shooting me. And when you do the math, it's, you know, if everybody shoots 3 balls and it's 30 guys shooting at you, yeah, you got a really fun story to tell after the day's over, but it's not going to be tickling. So under situations like that, yes, go ahead and ask for the surrender, but let me show you my technique of what to do. Yeah, I know this barrel really isn't a person, and the guys from Breakaway here actually offered me a dummy to borrow, but I couldn't get goggles on the dummy, so I didn't want to do that, but we're going to use this instead. Now, if you're going to ask somebody to surrender, when you walk up to them, what I find is really good to do is to show the person that you are in control and they're really not going to be able to do much of anything without you figuring it out before they do it. So, that's why I always put one hand on their shoulder, and I take the barrel of the marker, and I put it in their side, usually right about at kidney level. That usually makes them stop and think for a moment. And you'll notice, let me get close to the camera to show you this, you'll notice my finger is not on the trigger. So why is my finger on the trigger? Well, because shooting somebody with the barrel in their kidney is not going to be fun for the person you're shooting at. Not to mention the other person could turn around and probably deck you at the same time. So you really want to exercise some fire control with this. But by putting one hand on the shoulder and putting the gun in the kidney on the opposite side, you're basically demonstrating to the person that you have control of the situation. That if they even try to turn, if they even think about turning, they really have nowhere to go because you're pushing the shoulder forward and you're pushing their kidney forward. They're not going to be able to do anything. And then very calmly say to them, please surrender. The reason I recommend you say something calmly is that if you start yelling and screaming, you're going to be basically announcing to everybody else, hey, look at me, I'm on the other team and I'm right in your base, yeah. And also, a calm voice will get more results than an excited voice, especially when you're doing something like this. You'll have to take my advice on this one because I've done this for 20-something years by now, and I've gotten burned on a lot of surrender attempts. This is the only method that I've used over the years that actually does work, and it's the safest way that I've found to do it. Now that being said, some fields also have something called the Rambo rule, going back to my dummy over here. The Rambo rule is if I can touch the opponent, they are eliminated. They do that here at Breakaway. And there's a lot of other fields that are adopting this too. They might also have a specialty rule at the fields, considering bunkers and such, like a bunker tap, so that if somebody's using a bunker for cover, if you walk in front of the bunker and tap the bunker, everybody behind that bunker is eliminated. This is why it's really important to know the rules and to understand the rules before you walk onto the field to play, because something like this could really come in handy down the road. Get out of there, mosquito! Ah, jeez. Mosquitoes want to get in the show too, dude.